everyone. Welcome to the Sharon the Red Baron show. I am Sharon with my special guest, Miss Stephanie. Are you
Hello.
okay with your last name? Do you want me to say your full name? Miss
Sure.
Stephanie Davis. She's going to be sharing her great awakening story in leaving the Mormon Church. And I just wanted to add real quick, the reason why I started this is it just seems like there are millions and millions of people awakening in their own way, whether it's through a church, politics, religious, spiritual, something's just not right in this crazy world. Whatever it is, they see signs, synchronicities, all of it, because I'm thoroughly intrigued by these kind of stories. And I just want to welcome you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. Let me ask you, can I ask you, because I always love to ask people this question, even when I'm out and about. Do you believe in signs?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Can you expound on that just a little bit? Anything
Yeah.
in particular, like something that happened? I love
So
this.
I believe in synchronicities. Absolutely. I don't know how to go into it really without diving deep headfirst into it all, but I do believe that there's an external force around all of us and that we're all here for a reason. And I don't say that based off of my interactions with the Mormon Church and being raised in the church. I think it's so much bigger than what the church is, the box they were trying to put me in. But I definitely, yeah, I believe there's something greater out there.
I
Yeah.
love it. I feel the same way. We could go down that rabbit hole, but I want to get to you because
Yeah.
we could talk for hours on
Oh,
that subject. And I do believe, and it's interesting that you say, in a box, because there's a lot of songs about being in a box. I'm just going to leave it at that. So
funny you say that. I had that conversation this morning. Somebody else.
synchronicity. There we go.
Yep, exactly.
Right? I love it. This is great. So listen, I just wanted to ask like a little bit about Stephanie. What do you like to do? Hobbies and so forth. What's your go-to?
So right now I'm a full-time employee slash full-time mother. I've got 3 children at home and a husband, and we're just busy doing our everyday lives, what my
Yeah,
kids are enjoying and all of that. So it's
I
basically what I'm
love
up
it.
to right now.
I understand. My girls are all grown up. So, well, I just have to say, for 3 kids, like you look like you're like 22. Just saying. Have to
Thanks.
say that. I love it. So listen, what was your true awakening, like your aha moment? Like, this is it. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So, it had come in phases in my life. Um, when I was 8 years old, my dad died. So my entire life, I've always held on to the guilt of if I leave the church, I may never see him again. Not knowing,
Oh,
so that is what kind of held me on for years. And
wow.
I would say I finally was able to let go and no longer feel any guilt. I don't feel any remorse. I feel I've made the best decision for myself, and that I truly believe that the true church is not true at all. I was probably, I would say, it was a lot, like 3 years ago is when I finally cut that cord. But
Wow. So you're still pretty new. Some people I've interviewed have been gone for 20 years, and a
I
lot of them, it took a long time.
I
Wow,
haven't.
you
I
own it, girl. I love it. Good for
I stopped
you.
going to church when I was like 15, but the guilt, the actual, like the final where I was able to completely release myself, it's been about 3 years.
Wow. Wow. And how do you feel right now in doing that?
I feel more peace. I feel more happiness. I feel more love within myself for myself than I have
That
ever
is
before.
important. I don't think people realize how important that is. I'm so glad you said that because there's entertainment and music and everything about that, but it seems like so many people they're just going through the motions in life. And I think that you nailed it. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you mind telling us a little bit more about that aha, like I'm out of here kind of a thing?
Yeah, well, one day I was sitting in my car and I was driving, and I got mad at myself that I was still holding on to this guilt because I hadn't been to church in 10, 15 years. And the last time I was in a church, in fact, they told me that if I ever, that I would be excommunicated in order to redeem myself. And I decided, no, I'm never coming back after that. So
Did you
it,
say peace out? Did you say
yeah,
peace out? I'm
pretty
so
much.
proud of you. You are a breath of fresh air because you're owning it. A lot of people just, from what the interviews that I've been doing, a lot of them, and it breaks my heart that they just feel so shamed and, just like you said, excommunicated. I'm sorry, but the big guy upstairs that I talk to all the time, like, he loves everyone and he would never do that to someone. And I personally, I feel like that is another label out there. Like,
Yeah.
everyone is labeled in society. And when we get rid of the labels, then people can actually start going within and
Yeah.
being kinder to each other, I feel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's a bully thing. Okay, so let's go. I just had to say that.
No, you're good. So yeah, just one day I was driving in my car, and a Papa Roach song came on, and my inner child came out because that was in junior high about the same time they were really big. So
I love it.
I was feeling it in the moment, and I was angry, and I just I turned off the music at that point, and I just said, Dad, like, I can't keep living this way. I can't keep feeling like I'll never see you again. I need you to tell me. My dad was a Mormon man when he lived in this life. He was Mormon, and so when he died, I just felt like I didn't have the choice. I didn't have the chance to ever have these conversations with him. I was 8 and I was active when I was 8, like his last dying wish was to baptize me. And that was the last thing he got to do before he died. So
Oh,
I just had this conversation with him in my car all these years later. And I just said, I need you to tell me I'm okay to let go because you're the reason I'm holding on. And,
oh gosh.
um, and then weeks later, I had happened to see a medium, and I didn't know if I was going to talk about this part or not, but she just said, hey, your dad wanted me to tell you that the Mormon Church doesn't exist outside of Earth. And she had no idea.
Wow. That you were even Mormon.
Well, she knew I was Mormon, but she didn't
Oh, okay.
know that, like, I had that conversation with my dad in the car, 20 plus years after his death. So she just said,
I see what you're saying.
for some reason, your dad's telling me that the Mormon Church doesn't exist outside of Earth and it's okay to let go. And that's exactly what I
Mm.
asked of him. And in that moment, I felt
Wow.
more free than I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'm
I'm
in my 30s. So,
so happy for you because I found, myself included, I found that signs and synchronicities and those signs, and they're really real. I mean, and they even speak of it in every esoteric religion out there,
right.
And I mean, hello,
Centuries.
Jesus and his followers, they're like, boom, something pops in their head. I gotta go here, I mean, same thing happens to us. We're no different.
It's the same source. It's just how you believe it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that stuff because I feel like so many people just second guess it. So good for you. And I can't even imagine how powerful that felt. Like,
Oh,
what
it
did
was
it feel like when she said that without even knowing?
it was incredible because my dad's been gone my entire life, and I have lived a life of trauma, and I've lived a life learning to heal on my own because my family, they love me and I love my family, so it's not a matter of like their roots in the church are so deep ingrained inside of them that they don't know how to break away. They don't want to break away. They don't feel they need to. They believe in it. So as I was going through all this trauma throughout my young childhood and into my teenage years, I didn't have a safety net because it was
Ah,
just do what you're supposed to
yeah.
do. And if you go against that, you're going to get in trouble. So anytime I made a mistake and I couldn't I had no safety net. So I was just making mistake after mistake, finding myself getting hurt and being taken advantage of. And like between the ages of 13 and 15, I had done so many dumb things, but also because of those dumb choices, bad things happened to me. And it ended up where at 15 years old, I decided I wanted to end my life, and
Oh, I'm
I
so sorry.
overdosed. And I didn't intentionally overdose that day, but it was unintentionally, but
It was a cry for help of some sort within
I was
yourself.
overdosing
And
on the beach when I lived in San Diego at the time, and literally foaming at the mouth, and my friends were going to leave me, and they decided, they were all kids too, and all of them were messed up. And then
yeah,
a couple of the leaders of the group were just like, no, we're not going to leave her. They threw me in the back of the car, dropped me off on my doorstep. And
thank goodness. I
and
can't even imagine your mindset. I mean, do you feel like a lot of kids within the Mormon church, that's exactly how they feel? Just,
yes, absolutely, because as young children, you know who you are. Like I
and we
remember when
ask questions when we're kids. And then
I
when you're always being told what to do, you're like, oh, this sucks. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I remember when maybe I was like 11 or 12, and I said, Mom, so as long as I'm righteous, when I die with my husband, like we're gonna have a world of our own, right? Like that's how it works, right? That's what we're taught. She goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, so our God at one point was human, then, right? That's what we're supposed to. That's what we believe, right? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, so who started this? Like, who was the first God? Who was
That's
the
a
first human?
brilliant question. I love this conversation so much.
I
I
remember
love
she
it.
just looked at me and she goes, Stephanie, there's just some answers that we'll never know. And that's one of them.
That's just what we're told.
Exactly. But at a young
Oh, I
age, I'm like,
hate that
who
one.
started this though? Like,
Wow, that is just, that says a lot about you wanting to ask those questions when you were a kid.
yeah. I
Have
mean, and
you, I mean,
I would bear my testimony every Sunday, every first Sunday of the month. Like, I believed in the religion. I did, but I still questioned, like, what made, like, who started it? Like, how is this possible?
right? Okay, so here's a question for you because there's going to be plenty of people from New England that are going to jump on this as soon as
Okay.
we get these all uploaded. But can you explain? I know it's probably within a few minutes. Is there any way that you can explain what the religion is all about without all the just like the one big belief? Does that make sense? I know
Yeah.
there's a lot to it, but if you can narrow it down for our viewers, that would be awesome.
Pretty much live the way we tell you to so that you can one day be a god yourself and return to the ultimate celestial kingdom. Like,
Wait
live
a
and
minute.
obey and die, and you'll forever be rewarded.
Wait a minute. Isn't that something that Jesus was already talking about? That everyone in all these other esoteric religions, that he was already trying to communicate that you all have the light within you and I'm in within you. And that when you pass in, even, wow. Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. And so just obey. That's all really what it is. They don't really care about much else. As long as you obey, then that seems to be all they really care about.
It's interesting you say that because a few years ago, I was having a conversation with a few of my friends about, the craziness in this world. And I'm like, I want to encourage you to kind of keep your eyes open out there because literally the signs and synchronicities are everywhere. And I don't think they and there's a lot of bad things out there, but I don't think people realize it. Like that Pac Sun store, they, if you ever notice that whatever they say goes, you know what I mean? It's kind of like they dictate the trends, trending, that's just
Mhm.
another label to spend more money, in my opinion, to go
Yeah.
to the big corporate, but right on the shirts, it said obey. And like, parents, are you letting I mean, now I feel like that I am talking like my mom when I was growing up, where I mean, my parents were super, super nice and like, but they were like, ooh, I don't know, you're like 10. I don't know if we want you to wear black and stuff like, simple things. They were great that like
Yeah.
we were not in the church or anything. We were
Okay.
Catholics, but my point is just people don't realize that you're literally wearing t-shirts that have like Tommy Hill whatever and Nike and all this. Like why can't you just dress the way you want? It's like they're promoting themselves by putting it on you. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. I mean, just along those lines of clothing, I remember growing up and just being taught modest is hottest. Like the boys would always say that to us, like modest is hottest. So I don't know, just controlling what we even wear.
Can you tell me, can you get into that real quick? Like the
Yeah,
kind of what the attire, because this will help people understand the religion.
yeah. So now, as a kid, it's a little bit more lenient, but when you are an adult, you have to wear garments, and at that point, like, okay. So as a kid,
Yeah, what do you mean garments? Like, are they really long?
they're basically long white underwear that like go down to right above your knee, and then they're shoulder cap for adults. I've never worn them, but my family all does. Um, but as a kid, it was just no spaghetti straps. Like your tank tops had to be at least 3 fingers long. But if they didn't even really like you to wear tank tops if you were a girl, because it could put improper thoughts in boys' minds.
Well, it's
Shorts had
only
to
really, really hot out here in
right.
Utah. God forbid that you literally were trying to just,
Right. And even like
wow.
shorts had to be knee length or just above the knee. Um, and I did get in trouble. I was very rebellious at a young age. So I would
I can tell, but I love it though,
so
because you're
I would
like, no one's going to tell me what to do.
oh no, no,
I'm so
even
proud of you.
now in my life, that's the way. But no, it was I would leave seminary in the morning, and before I would leave, I'd go to the bathroom, change what I put on in the morning, and go to school and whatever outfit I had on at the day. But yeah.
I think every girl has done that at some point in their life growing up.
I just did it every day, but it's okay.
I could see you like totally jumping out a window or something like, oh my gosh. So tell me more about, your family. So how does the dynamics work? I understand what you said, but what's it really like for you?
Just the church as in a whole, or
No, like you're
the,
not the church
the
family,
garments.
but your personal family.
So yeah, with my family, I was born and raised in the church. My aunts, uncles are all members, grandparents are members. I think above my grandparents, that's where there's not so many members. All my cousins, everyone, like, I would say the only people that aren't Mormon anymore in my family are just like a few of my siblings and myself. But I've
So at
got
least you have some of your brothers and sisters that have also left. So that must be a huge, that
it,
must help you a lot
yeah,
because, like I said,
it's
I mean,
nice that
yeah,
we all grew up together, so we know what it was like to grow up the way that we did. And I said my mom was great. She was a really good mom, and she did
yeah,
everything she could to provide for us. And I can't
yeah,
imagine being, in the age I am now, losing my husband with 5 kids. That was her story. And
yeah.
she did her best and all of that, but we all grew up together. And so now to be able to relate, like, wow, we grew up in just not just our home, but just the church, and what pressure that puts on the parents in the family to appear to be perfect, that your kids are perfect and that
Mhm.
they don't make mistakes, because the church teaches you that as the parent, that you are responsible eternally for your children's choices. So that
Really? But
at
it's
least
not your choice. It's wow.
that was something my mom would always and she may let go of it now. She doesn't talk about it now, but when I was younger, she'd be like, don't you understand that I have to answer for your choices in the eternal life? And she would
I thought
have
that was
anxiety.
our individual choices. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Right. That was another thing in my mind where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, Mom, you're not responsible for my choices. I'm making these choices.
And
She goes,
you were saying this at an early age,
I
huh?
was a
Good
teenager.
for
Yeah.
you. You're like,
And
something ain't right here.
right. And I didn't know at the time either that it was me not believing the church, or me. It was like my soul was trying to wake me up at a very young age, and I didn't know that's what was
Wow.
happening.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. And I think that actually resonates a lot because I feel like that's what I'm finding out with people is finally something is just tearing at them and they can't sleep, they can't eat, they're just all wound up and they want to get out, but they don't know how because they know what comes along with it. And I'm sorry, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone that's more, a more, should I say Mormon or LDS? Like
I
everything's a
still
little,
say Mormon. I don't
yeah,
know.
I just, that's what I've always heard. So I like to stick with
Right.
that. But it just amazes me how many stories I'm already hearing of people feeling shame.
Oh, I felt very shameful my whole life. In
I'm
fact,
so sorry. I just, I
yeah.
can't imagine at a young age too, just,
Yeah, it was hard. I felt even like when I got sent away for treatment, there was so much shame around that that my mom never even told anybody where I was.
can
I
you
think,
go into that if you're open to sharing that? So what
yeah, whatever
happened?
you want to hear, I'm open to sharing. It's just a matter what's appropriate for because this is a, kind
Yeah, no,
of
I appreciate
unrelated.
it. I love raw and real, and you can say some swear words every once in a while or whatever, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to hear this.
So the day that I overdosed, like one day I was at school, the next day I wasn't, and I just never came back. My parents never even unenrolled me out of school. Well, I should say my parents. My mom got remarried when I was 11, so I have a stepdad now. But so they never unenrolled me. But when I left, I think the only person they told was our bishop. But other than that, the people in the ward, my friends, nobody knew where I was. They just knew I was kind of like an out of control teenager, and then I was gone. It literally it happened so fast. But once they sent me away,
Wow.
I lived in a mental hospital for 5 weeks, and it was supposed to be a 72-hour hold, but I was there for 5 weeks because they didn't know where to put me. They didn't know what to do with me, essentially. And then at that point, my parents told me that I would be going to Utah and that I was going to be going to kind of like a retreat type place where we like camp a little bit on the weekends, and then that will be in a cabin. Like it's just kind of like a
Was it
break.
more for counseling or they were trying to
Uh,
spice it up a little or just
it
to,
was a wilderness program. So
oh,
I like if you've seen, there's a new Netflix documentary called Hell Camp. So I don't know if you've seen anything about that, but over.
no.
So it's literally they dropped me off in the middle of the West Desert, and I hiked 5 to 11 miles a day, sleeping in the dirt, had no pillows, like had a 50-pound pack on my back. I walked through the
Almost
Utah
sounds like
desert.
a punishment at first.
It was. They lied to me, but
Oh my gosh, I am so
so
sorry because here you're thinking maybe someone's going to help me. And don't get me wrong, I believe in pushing ourselves to kind of, but you are just fresh, raw, and they
I
just
was a
throw you out in
15-year-old
the desert.
kid.
I
Yeah.
am so
So
sorry.
you know,
Wow.
other kids in my treatment that they got woken up in the middle of the night by 7-foot men that kidnapped them literally from their beds. Their parents hired them to kidnap them. My parents opted not to do that, so I'm forever grateful.
That
That's a
is
whole.
just, you know,
Yeah.
this kind of sounds familiar. Was this a show maybe like 20 years ago as well? Was it like the concept where the brat and you weren't I just want to clarify. It
Brat
was kind
camp,
of
it's
more
the same
the
thing.
brat kid stuff, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. So yeah, I went to, yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Every organization's a little bit different. So whatever was on the TV a few years ago, that came out after I was sent away in 2003.
So say again how quickly from the time that you OD'd to the time that you were dropped off, what was the time
So
frame?
I OD'd, and then I was in the mental hospital for 5 weeks. Typically, that's a 72-hour hold, but my parents kept me there just not knowing where to put me. And then they researched programs, and then they found this one in Utah. So it was 5 weeks from the time I overdosed from the first day that I entered that wilderness program. And then
Okay.
I was in wilderness for 49 days. And then from wilderness, I was sent to a residential treatment center in Utah, all girls, and I was there for a year.
Can I ask you what the overall feeling was amongst the other girls, how they were feeling? Did they kind of feel the same way? Like, I don't know how to,
It, you
personally,
know,
I feel like, oh my gosh, what are they trying to do to us? I mean, they say they want to help, but I don't know. This is just the feeling that I'm feeling if I were a kid.
yeah, so when I was, I guess I probably was easily brainwashed because I was born into the church, but I just went with it. I didn't really know what to, like, I definitely fought it. Don't get me wrong. I sat on a trail in that wilderness program in 100-degree weather and made everybody else sit there. And I sat there for hours. I refused to hike. So, like, I don't just go with the flow. I definitely will raise hell when I need to.
I love that. Be different. Get
But
used to different because it's coming. I can feel it.
but a lot of the girls, like they saw it was messed up and they didn't understand what was happening or whatever. But we all had our own story, and everyone's was sent there for their own reasons. Mine was my parents just didn't know how to help me, and I was spiraling so fast that I was gonna die, and this was their way of like, I
And I'm
spiraled.
sure they meant well. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm
Absolutely.
sure they meant well
Oh,
by
100%.
it.
Yeah, they didn't want me to die. They didn't know how to help me.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to be there for me.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, they did what they knew how to do with, like, they just, they didn't know what to do. And they were
Yeah.
going off
Yeah.
the advice of the experts at the time in the mental hospital, which, I mean, I won't even get into what happened there because they were just misdrugging all of us kids. And it was crazy. Like, it was crazy.
Like to a point that you kind of were just like couldn't think for yourselves or
Oh,
something?
I was hallucinating and everything. Like, I was like, I'm not
Did you
supposed to be
tell
on
them?
these beds, Mom. And it was what it was.
Wait, so were they, so when you were did you tell them they make you feel funny? Like, did you tell your
No, I
parents? Were
didn't
you
say.
able to talk to
I
them?
was messed up. I didn't care. Like, I was on something. So, I was.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Gotcha.
Oh, this is cool. I'll let you
Gotcha.
whatever.
Actually, maybe that's part of the, you do hear that there are some bad places out there, and that's
And
why they do it.
this was
Because
in
they
the
don't
heart
want you to wait, they
of
don't
snow.
want you to awaken. I mean, it's just like all those, movies you see, which by the way, a lot of people are going to find out there's a lot of truth to movies. It
Yeah.
wasn't just,
Wait. I think
oh,
we for hours outside of this podcast.
yes, the numerology, when people realize what's really going on in the world and they listen between the lines, they look at entertainment completely different.
You
That
know
is
about
called
karmic
the
law,
art
right?
of war. That
Yeah.
is called the art of war for sure. But I mean, that just reminds me of all those, those movies of these kids that are labeled as problems when they're really not a problem. They're just being a kid trying to figure things out because you can't be open. And if you're open, people are going to judge you because everyone's got a label and just, wow,
Yeah.
wow. So what was your experience like until, at that camp and stuff until you got out? So what was
So
how did that,
for the 49 days I was in wilderness, is typically the typical story for anyone is you get there and you're supposed to be on what they call solo, but that's only supposed to be for a couple days. In order to get off solo to join the group, you need to do certain tasks. I refused to do those tasks because I truly didn't care to join the group.
I like you. I just have to say, I think you're awesome. We're going to be like new besties or something because you just, oh, I love that when women are that way where they know who they are. Just, yeah.
I did get put on suicide watch when I was first there. So I had to sleep in between two counselors. They put a tarp over me and underneath their sleeping bags. So if I tried to move, they would feel the tarp and hear it, and I couldn't get out. So that was, I
Wow.
was
They
on
had a whole
suicide.
system apparently.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and that was just for my suicide watch. Once I got taken off
Yeah.
suicide watch, I was able to sleep by myself and whatnot. But
Okay.
I still refused to join the group because I didn't care to. I didn't care. I appreciated being in the wilderness by myself with my own fire, not talking to anybody. Um, but then once I finally did join the group, we well, even day to day, like I said, we hiked 5 to 11 miles a day, all throughout the
Wow.
Utah Nevada desert. And with that, they actually, Camp Williams is the Army base right here in Utah, and they would use us because we weren't the only group of kids out there. But they would use us as like practice as they were flying over, kind of like we were moving camps. So they would. We weren't really involved in that. We just knew about that. It was.
Could you say that one more time? The base had
Yeah,
something to do with it?
so
What?
it was okay. So they weren't involved at all. I'm just mentioning like it just that the
It was
Army base
close
that was
by.
they were close by, but that they would
Huh.
use their training, like use us in their trainings, but we weren't involved in the trainings. They'd be like overhead in helicopters and stuff, and they'd be looking for
Wow.
us as if we were trying to hide from them, like trainings as if they were overseas trying to find whatever war was going on at the time in the
Gotcha.
early
Gotcha.
2000s. I'm trying not to be
Gotcha.
specific with anything, but
Yeah. Yeah.
like
I
they
gotcha.
would use us as little pawns in that scheme. But the day that I got to wilderness, even they took a picture of my face next to the boots that they gave me, the bottom of it, so that if I tried to run, they would have the track of my boot and my face to give to the Army base. I guess one time kids did run and they went to the front there to go to the Army base and ask for help, and they all drew guns on the kids and threatened them and stuff and messed.
Okay. Can I just say this just must be so devastating as a kid with all the stuff that you've gone through.
Yeah, it was definitely at the time I didn't understand, and at the time I was mad. I was
I
so
don't
mad that
blame
my parents sent me
you.
away. I was so mad that I felt like they gave up on me because they weren't really there to begin with. They thought they were there, but what I needed from them, they weren't able to give me. They didn't know how to give me. And then I just felt
Because
like I
they
was setting
were,
up a
if it's
problem.
okay, if it's okay to say, they were brainwashed themselves. And
Absolutely. The church, I 100% will stand by their beliefs in the church, and what they were taught are the reason why they weren't there for me. If they knew things differently, or if they believed differently, I believe they would have been there for me.
this is a whole interesting can of, wow. I mean, they're telling the parents to act this way towards their own children that they're supposed to love and literally die for over a church.
Yeah.
Because I know that I would. And I do give your parents credit. I'm sure they just were trying, maybe other people said, oh, this is, that's how that stuff works. But
They
wow.
didn't
Okay.
know better. They
So
didn't.
then once you were back out of it, what was it like?
So after the wilderness, then I went to the residential treatment program, and that was in Spanish Fork, Utah, and I was there for a year. And then once I graduated that program,
Wow. A
um,
year.
yeah,
Wow.
I missed out on most of my, or half my freshman year and all of my sophomore year. I was in treatment for that time of my life. And so after 10th grade, graduated that program, I actually had went to my parents and I told them that I didn't believe I could go back to California, that if I moved back home, I would just go back to my old friends and I'd start using again. And I was looking forward to growing. I didn't want to use anymore. I had found that self-growth enough that I just wanted to have a normal teenage life. I didn't
Yeah.
want to go through the traumas again that I had gone through because of my drugs and drinking. And
I
so,
don't blame you. That would have been scary. Be like, don't send me back. You see that in the movies too. Don't. I mean, and I'm not trying to laugh at it, but this is
oh no, there were girls in my program they had gone. There was one girl specifically who, she had been there several years. Like her parents just dropped her off there and didn't come back for her, and she left when she was 18. And that's not a cheap program. That program's over like 12,000 a month. So she
wow.
wasn't Mormon, but yeah, that there were girls that just, yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot. I mean, just for the parents to leave them, that is disgusting, first off.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
mean, the parents that are there thinking that they're doing it. I mean, I'm starting to find myself that even a lot of the systems out there are really messed up. I mean, I've been going down the rabbit hole for years now, and some of the things that I'm finding are literally in people's face, but they just are too lazy to do their own research, or they just don't want to believe it, whatever it is. It's out there, people, if you want to look.
Anti-Mormon literature is what they call it. Anti-Mormon literature. It's from Satan, and don't engage.
Can I ask you a question? And if you're not comfortable, have you heard of a lot of the pedophilia and the grooming and bad things like that?
Yeah, I I
What
was
are
never
they higher
personally
up
hurt.
people that are doing it type of a thing? Because if it
Um,
is, they should all
so
be shot in the head. Just saying.
I
You
100%.
have me on record for that. 'Cause
If you Google my name, you'll find that I'm currently dealing with something similar, not in the church, but you can Google me just off, and you'll see what I'm just Stephanie Davis, Utah, and you'll find me, and you'll see what I'm dealing with right now in that same regards. But
I'm gonna write that down. People, let's write that down. Is it some way we can support you?
I guess a brief story to back up what I'm saying is a few years ago, I had a peeping Tom on my doorstep and he tried to hurt my son. And I've been fighting the state of Utah ever since because it was their fault,
Really?
essentially. This guy was incompetent several times after hurting children and released and put back into the public to hurt more children.
I don't
So
blame you. Oh my gosh, I don't know. In New Hampshire, we had this law called the Megan's Law. Megan's Law, I think it is. Is that national now? I think it's
I've heard him here. It could be, but I
okay.
don't.
Well, let me tell you, when my girls were younger, I was hearing about it in the local news and stuff, and they were still really young, maybe 5 and 6. And when I went on, I almost peed my pants because literally there was probably like 50 of them right around the area that we lived in. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh,
holy, and I mean, they do this in the movies as well. When they do one, it's a sickness. It's a
yeah,
sickness. And they're just
yeah,
letting them back out. That
yeah.
creeps
It's
me
insane.
out. If they
In
ran
Utah,
into me, I'd freaking don't even. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine how you.
It's crazy because in Utah, like I said, I'm fighting the Utah government because the law in Utah that allowed this man to keep hurting children, it's an incompetency law that is allowed. Anyone that's deemed incompetent doesn't have to be placed in a mental hospital, because back in like the 70s and 80s, the people in the mental hospital were being mistreated. And so they changed the law. So now this individual that tried to hurt my son has several child victims behind him. And then when he ended up on my doorstep, I went and tried to fight it. I'm like, look, you have incompetency laws here in Utah. And it's crazy because it really comes down to, I 100% believe, I've said this I've been on several of the news stations here in Utah about what I've been going through the last couple of years.
I am so
And
sorry. It should be an easy resolution, in my opinion.
right. Well, basically the prosecutor told me Utah's broken and there's nothing you could do. And I said, watch me. This guy that
Good for you. I like you. Oh, we're totally staying in touch. You are
absolutely.
good for you. You are
So,
a great role model. I'm just saying that. I'm not just saying it. I'm saying it.
thank you.
So the guy, are you saying did he, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Did he have some type, did he have some type of mental?
He's been diagnosed with mental disabilities. He's actually the last case that got this much media attention was Elizabeth Smart. And the law in Utah that got Brian Mitchell off was the same law that got my guy off, like the guy that tried to hurt my son off. It's the same exact
bullshit. I'm sorry, but you know, that could, I mean, that could have gone bad really, really quick.
Yeah. Well, at this point, what saved our ass here is that this guy, for as incompetent as he was sharing child porn on the dark web, and the feds stepped in and arrested him. So he's in federal custody now.
Oh, that's good. So at least he's not going to go after your children or anyone else's
my
children.
husband's military. We're ready for it.
Yeah,
let's see what happens. No, not really.
I have a funny feeling that I want to encourage you to keep, you know, if they keep delaying or doing anything, I'd say keep going, because I think you can feel everything's going to change in the next year, and people are going to actually start being held accountable and not protected like it's all messed up and backwards.
Well, here in Utah too, the government and the church are one. So
isn't that interesting? I find that very interesting.
For so many frustrating reasons, but this one specifically, it's like, why do you have laws that protect predators?
Yeah, I got a problem with that. I say we leave it up to the moms and the parents, and then everything will be all set.
Well, and even like,
don't take that, you know, because how so many people, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, take it out of context. But seriously, give the power back to the people.
Well,
instead of these people that are bribed throughout not just our country, but the entire world. I mean, that stuff is unfolding before our eyes. And it amazes me how so many people are still looking the other way. I'm like, wow, you're not very bright, are you?
Yeah.
I mean,
and yeah, here in Utah, I know right after like this was happening, my life went out of like, it spiraled, because I knew my son was a potential sexual assault victim of a grown man. So I jumped down this hole of I'm ready to fight, and I'm going to fight anybody that gets in my way. Government, like I called the government
back
out.
you.
Like I just said, you know, like, Utah, this is your fault. Like, I called the governor's office and I was screaming at his secretary. I said, get him on the phone. And she, of course, that's not how it works, but this is unacceptable. Do something. Be better. Like, stop. Right after this happened,
my blood is boiling right now. As a mom myself, I'm like, oh, heck yeah. And towards the end, I want to make sure you leave your contact information for people, because I have a funny feeling we're going to tear some shit up in Utah.
Yeah, and
right alongside of you.
No, right, and like I said, right after this happened, I swear it was probably a month and a half. Every single week there was a new article about a bishop that was arrested for molesting children and raping children. Every week for about a month and a half.
Right out here in Utah.
In Utah, it was.
So can I ask a question then?
Yeah.
So if people that are members of the church that are constantly seeing this, why the heck would you want to leave your kid in the hands of And I
Yeah.
also thought I've heard, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is an educational process for me as
Right.
well, because again, I was brought up Catholic, but I thought I had heard somewhere that these after school programs for the Mormons were right outside the door of schools. So
So
if that's true, and a lot of these people are, that's a little creepy to me. Like
yeah.
I'd be suspicious of that, and no way in hell would I ever let my kid.
Oh, when I was probably 12, you start going, you are able to go to the temple to do baptisms for the dead. And essentially what that is, if that hasn't already been explained, baptisms for the dead is essentially being baptized in the name of somebody else who has died, so that they have the choice to be Mormon in the next life so that they can join God's kingdom. Um, so when I was 12, I would have to go through an interview with my bishop. And in order for me to enter the temple, I had to be worthy. And what that looks like is basically I had a grown adult male asking me at 12 years old if I pet myself. I didn't even
What? Wait,
know what
wait,
that
wait,
meant.
wait, Stephanie. Oh boy. Can you please repeat that so I can hear what I just.
Yeah, I'll get emotional because it is overwhelming to think
No, I
about.
don't blame you. I don't blame you. Please do not apologize.
And when I was being interviewed at 12 years old, I was asked if I pet myself in order to be worthy to go to the temple. Like if I did not,
Holy shitballs.
I was a child.
Is that person still alive that asked you?
He is. He's a still
What?
active member in the Mormon Church. And nobody, looking back on it, I think parents now are like, why would I ever allow my 12-year-old to be alone in a room being asked if they're still a virgin, if they touch themselves? Because those are the questions that they need to know
My
to know
heart is
they're worthy.
literally palpitating right now. It makes me so furious.
Yeah.
And you
It,
know what? I'm not just saying this. I know that I'm here in Utah for a reason. And I think I mentioned to you briefly that I moved from New Hampshire,
yeah.
and we take our state motto seriously, live free or die. And when I came out here, and I'm sure you'll hear this in other interviews, but it's something that really holds near and dear to me, is that when I ended up moving out here, people were just random people I'd have small talk with. They're like, "Ooh, you can't wear that. Oh, you shouldn't do that." I'm like, "Who the frig are these Mormons?" First off, last time I knew I could make my own choices,
Mhm.
be kind. I like to help others. I love to help the rescue animals. Like, who are these people? And
Yeah.
I also have a problem when I moved out here, Stephanie, you'll appreciate this. I was like, wait, there's no scratch tickets and there's no booze at the grocery store, because back in New England, all us moms would be going to pick up our wine, our mummy juice, right? And I know that that's not something, but I mean, I am just hearing so much hypocritical, like they're all, not all of them, but it seems like a lot of these big leaders are hypocrites.
Yeah.
And but the whole petting thing and all that, I mean, first
I didn't
off,
even know what that meant when he asked me. I'm like, no, I didn't even know that. I didn't know what the word, I didn't know
why
what that
aren't you
meant.
going after him?
Right.
The things are gonna switch up, because we're like a bunch of us, we're getting people together. We're gonna stay in contact. People can continue watching, the interviews that are gonna be uploaded, but we're gonna be changing a lot of things in Utah, and it's finally gonna happen. So continue. I apologize, because that's
You're
just
fine. So, let me just get back on. I don't know where my brain was going.
the guy
But
asking you
yes,
about the petting and all that, and he's still in the church, so he can do it
yeah.
to other children. That's
I don't know if he's a
awesome.
bishop anymore, but I know he was a bishop for a while. After I got even sent away to treatment, like he was the bishop for a while.
That makes me sick. That
Yeah.
makes me sick. And I can say that because I'm not a part of the Mormon Church, people, but the
Well,
people that are going to be watching this, don't you find that sick? I do. I think we need to like stand up for this young woman and
I think a lot of
show her
parents
some support.
nowadays are smarter and they're not going to let a grown man interview their child alone. Now, parents will still let their children be interviewed, but I think that now parents will be with the interviews.
Point. Why would you even, and I'm not saying this towards you, I'm very passionate,
Right.
but if you have to worry about that, why would you even send your kid there without a parent. None of this makes sense to me outside. And see, I come from outside of the church, so
Right.
being a regular, everyday, patriotic, I've got a problem with all of this.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
there's red flags everywhere, but when you're born into it and it's so deep ingrained into you, you don't know it. It's the same thing when I was watching like some Netflix documentaries on like Warren Jeffs. That's the FLDS. That's a whole nother can of worms, but it's watching them in there as well. It's like, oh yeah, I see it. It's just I was 3 years old singing songs that I'd go to the temple someday and that I would be a righteous member and that Jesus loves me because I'm a sunbeam. And
You don't need permission from anyone from any church. That's the thing, I'm going to say this till the day I die. Jim Caviezel, obviously he's a very religious man, and he says the second, and this is in the Bible, you do not make money off of my name. That's corporate. That's no different than anything else. And I can say that as a non-Mormon, that's messed up.
Well, and if you don't,
now that I've gone down the rabbit hole and, I think about all these things like, okay, so they don't get taxed. Okay, so they don't get taxed because it's a charity, but yet they're taking my monies. I'm thinking of all that. This is me speaking and this is your interview, but I just wanted to share this with you because I'm sure you'll understand is what I have a problem is all these people that have been donating 10% of their pay for how many years. I think they all deserve to get that money back. No, they've got the money, get it back.
Right. Well, and I don't know, I'm sure you have heard this, but the Mormon Church is one of the richest organization in the world.
Yeah. And you know what? I've said this on several podcasts, and I'm going to say it till the day I die is, and don't get me wrong, I know that a lot of these missions, they go and they help out, but why can't they just stay right here in the United States? They could clear up the whole country with that kind of money. Right. The way I look at it. Why don't they? What do you think, Stephanie?
I think that what they tell us is they're basically waiting for the second coming. So they're just preparing the world to have a space for their members to go when the second coming comes. And
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there at the second coming. Are you? I know I am. I didn't know I needed their permission.
How much I believe in Jesus as the Son of God anymore, but I've actually kind of gone, I believe in Jesus just a different way. But yeah.
I think I know what you're saying because I felt the same way. Catholic Church, I just remembered that half the people in the church were all sinners and they were all going to go to hell. This is what my observation as a young teenager. I was like, okay, so, but that's a whole nother story. So can I ask you, so what were you able to do for yourself to be who you are right now? I am so stinking proud of you. You are, can't say that enough. I think a lot of moms should lock arms with you and start getting some major shit done here in Utah.
Anybody that wants to come and help, I'm fighting a fight. Come join me.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I've had to learn, honestly, I've had to learn just how to heal. That's what's gotten me through it. Now I'm going to tell you, anyone that knows me will know that I've lived a life of mistakes. I've done the stupidest shit.
We're all sinners. Oh my gosh. If I hear people, see, that's part of the shame though, that goes along with it, because I did stupid stuff growing up myself. And, we all have. It's because something happened for you to just want to take a little peek on the other side because you're bored or whatever. Being told what to do all the time. I don't know, right?
No, I'm the first. I don't like being told what to do.
I don't either. Okay. So the healing process. So you feel like you've healed, you've learned to self-love. Is there anything that you would recommend to people to kind of help in that area?
Leaving the church it's so complex, and
that was no accident either.
No. it's honestly, it's about finding what's inside of you that lights you and run with it.
That's very real too. I found that out. I think a lot of people are really finding that out all on their own without a church.
Yeah.
Do you
Oh,
feel the same way?
I think without the church, if it was the church that I feel like kept me in my turmoil, because I was fighting the person that they wanted me to be and the person I felt I was. I
Hmm.
didn't know how to balance and be both.
That makes complete sense. I mean, but look at you now. You're a great example. Do you have any words of wisdom for anyone, of all ages, especially the children? I'd really love it if you could focus on the children.
Yeah. So honestly, like me growing up the way that I did, with parents who loved me but didn't know how to be there for me, find the adults in your life that love you unconditionally, whether it's a teacher at school, which I have one teacher from 6th grade who today is still an angel to me. Find an
Oh, that's
adult who's
awesome.
safe. There's one out there, a friend's mom, whatever. And if you
Yeah.
can't, journal, go within yourself and learn how to love yourself.
Yeah.
One thing that I said at a young age, a teenager, that I don't even know if I picked it up somewhere, was nobody's going to do it for you, so do it for yourself. And that's what I told myself all the time.
I
And
love
that,
that.
including love yourself. I had to
Yeah.
learn, and I'm still learning what it means to love myself.
Mhm.
But had I known that as a child, like literally, I wanted to be rescued. I wanted somebody to just swoop in, and nobody did it. And now I'm
Because
doing
no one saw your
that.
pain because it was all hidden.
Yeah. So it just,
Wow.
to the anyone out there, children especially, because that's who I want to impact with my story, is kids. Just, you have to focus on your self-love and how to grow that, and that is how you will get out of the darkness.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And, I'm just going to throw it out there because I'm kind of a wise ass sometimes. I don't know if you can tell, but what if children ended up going to their parents, wholeheartedly, you know, and just say, I can't do this. I can't do this. And you know what? If the parents say no, maybe they should have their children taken from them. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. That sounds very raw, but at the same
Well,
time, if your children's mental and physical, I mean, that's your job. I don't
yeah.
know. It's just a thought. Just a thought.
Yeah.
There
It's
should be
crazy.
some type of logging outside. There should be some type of logging of this stuff outside of the church, within a community of like-minded people where they can log this information so that if something, not government baloney and all that, everything's going to change in the next year. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Stephanie. Please, could you leave specific information for people to reach out to you by chance where they can find you?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have too many public forums right now.
Mhm.
I've started back in, I want to say it was probably 2017 is when I finally started to share my story. I
Mhm.
created a Facebook group. It's called Stephanie's Story. It's private right now. I can't make it unprivate, but I would love
I
to
think that's
share it.
smart. I think that's smart.
Um, but I did 4 live videos, and I just started from birth until rehab, and I told my story. There's so much story to my story even after rehab to now, but
Mhm.
that I'm starting there. I'm gonna write an autobiography, and I want to be a
Good for
motivational
you.
speaker. I want to travel the country.
Oh, girl, you are gonna do great. You just made me think of something real quick. Have you thought of possibly interviewing people as well?
Yeah, I
Especially
thought
parents that have children. I think that would be a great niche for you.
I've thought about even starting a YouTube channel of specifically targeting parents with children that are delinquent, to be able to hopefully assist them
A
before their
proper
child
way.
needs treatment.
I mean, and to think about it, the way being a mom myself, they may not even be around if these parents do not help their children. And one day their child tries what tried. There's no going back after that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I don't think any parent would ever support a church. I don't think that some way, somehow, I'm just going to be open, honest, and real. The Mormons, I'm just, that want to be assholes to me. I have every right to state my own opinion. But honestly, some way, somehow, they would probably brainwash the parent if they lost their child to it. I could see it a mile away. And
yeah,
that's messed up. I mean, these people in a lot of hardcore religions, I mean, they even said I mean, there's a gentleman, one of the biggest biblical scholars out there in the entire world, called Jonathan Cahn. Anyone can look it up right on YouTube. He states it that the Vatican has changed the Bible over 300 times.
Oh
And if
yeah.
people don't recognize why they took so much valuable information out, what I have come to the conclusion of, and many also have, is that it's the slow brainwashing. Let's brainwash this generation, the grandparents, the parents, the children, and then the parents that have the children. Let's get them all in one. And then we can slowly take things away, just like they're doing in our government right now.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
always hand in
they're
hand.
taking away a lot of our rights, and people don't even realize it because they have just been too busy, more worried about having the big house, the big fancy cars, looking
Keeping up
like
with the
you know,
Joneses.
it's like the housewives. That
Yeah.
that housewives of Utah, I thought was pure trash. I'm just
I
gonna.
never saw an episode, but yeah.
Oh, I had to because I was new to the area, and I'm like, I gotta see how these moms are. And the one thing I notice about all these shows is that all of these women, you know, I mean, you see the audience, all these women are just obsessed with their shows, and they think that, you know, oh, they can do anything, and they have all this money, but you know what? They're still miserable, they're still all backstabbers, and there's still so much drama. And
Right.
that's not the type of environment and things that I want to watch anymore.
Right. What's fun about
Awesome.
Utah too is, well, speaking of these moms and everything, is, they tell you can't smoke weed, you can't drink, but go to a doctor and they'll prescribe you all these pills, and that's fine. Go ahead and get all filled out.
Oh, it's so funny. Actually, thank you, Stephanie, for saying that, because I just talked about this yesterday with someone where, I mean, but that's the deep brainwashing. You've got have you noticed that our commercials now, like probably 50% of them are all prescriptions now?
Yep. And
And
then
they'll be like, you could get a blood clot, you know, brain aneurysm, you could have a heart attack. And they're literally showing you how naive we are. They say right in the commercials, don't touch anything before you consult a physician, you know? And the funny thing is I one of my girlfriends, I sent her a link to an unlabeled ivermectin, and
okay.
you can actually find it on Amazon, and they just put all the ingredients together. But where I'm going with this, so my girlfriend ended up doing some research, and just first thing she sees is FDA warning, quinine, or I can't say it, it's like a tongue twister, could be very harmful. And I'm like, I'm not going to say her name. I'm like, go look up what that means. And she comes back and she's like, oh, it's like lemons and grapefruit and all that. And I'm like, bingo, there you go. And you were not brainwashed, you know.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
just, I am very, very proud of you. I want to thank you for your time. I would love to do another recording, maybe, you know, a few months down the road, because once I get all these videos uploaded, I'm doing Great Awakening stories for all sorts,
Okay.
of all different church, you know, people that see, feel, sense things, whether they're having a political, yeah, I'm with you, girl.
My gifts are
Political
coming out right
awakening.
now.
Think about that. I mean, a lot of people are awakening and they're like, okay, something doesn't seem right here. So, and it's very, very confusing, but at the same time, I'm doing this because I love hearing people's stories, because
Yeah.
what I found is so many people are afraid of these labels that they've created for each and every one of us.
That aren't even real.
Yeah, and we can't even be ourselves because we're afraid to be bullied, to be made fun of.
Or just to
And
have judgment cast our way, or to be shunned, or to be, you're not the perfect family, you guys make mistakes. Oh my gosh, I can't associate
I
with you.
know, isn't this just the whole game of life, and you're supposed to learn and learn as you grow, right?
Yeah,
Wow. Well, Stephanie, I want to thank you so much. We are definitely staying in touch.
absolutely.
And I appreciate your time. And
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you are you're just very well balanced. And I think that says a lot. And I think you're going to do, really, quote me on this, you're going to do very big things within the next year.
Thank you. Yeah. Ultimately, I want to have an off-grid healing center, but my journey
I'm
from now
going.
to then will be, yeah, please.
All right, I get a free pass to go. I'm gonna camp
Yep.
underneath the stars because we have similar ideas. Someday I want to open a rescue animal facility,
Oh, what you want?
acreage,
Let's do it.
pea sheds everywhere of holistic healers, but it's not gonna be crazy, like, like obnoxious like Woodstock or something. It's gonna be where people can appreciate. Oh, we're
One
gonna
of my best friends is a shaman, so let's go.
Ooh, I love it. All right, Stephanie. Well, you have a great night and thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.